Yeah, hello again. Back on the Cerbera. The bike's, the VMAX, pretty much done. It does have some jetting issues, but nothing major. So yeah, what am I doing with the Cerbera? Well, I'm putting the Haltech on it. As you can see here, I've got 95% of the loom done. This is the Haltech sort of, what do you call it there, sort of, it's one size fits all type loom. Yeah, designed to go with their Nexus R3. I haven't actually plugged the ECU into it and tested everything yet, but it actually was reasonably straightforward. Although having said that, I don't actually know that everything's going to work, so take that with a grain of salt. So what have I got? I've got, some of you might remember when I rebuilt the engine, I put this cam sensor in. So basically at the front of the cam you've got 4 bolts that hold it in place. I just bought a longer bolt, machined up a spacer, and then lined it up with the cover and cut a hole and put that sensor there. I did that knowing that one day I was going to do this. So with that cam sensor there, it means I can do sequential ignition, sequential fuel, or at least I hope I can. So what have I got? Well, way down in there I've put in a, you probably can't see it, but I've put in a oil, water and fuel. I've got pressure and temperature sensors. There are I think I've got one here. Yeah, just this style. I think they're basically just a Bosch style. Haltech sell them, but they're just a temperature and a pressure. Let's turn this light on. Yeah, they're a temperature and a pressure sensor in one. And yeah, the Haltech Nexus has got enough inputs to run, well, 3 of them. It'll probably run more, I think. As you can see, I've got a lot of spare wires here. This this ECU is probably, might even be a bit of overkill, but we'll see. So yeah, as you can see, I've got, that's my oil pressure there. They're all the injectors. This is the cam home signal. That's the throttle position sensor, which just goes to your, that's a Raceworks throttle position sensor. It only runs one throttle position sensor. The standard TVR setup is a little unusual in using 2. But I don't think it'll be a problem. You can still sync the throttle bodies with your little airflow meter, or however you want to do it. And it's actually got, this will actually have, well, these are the cables here going down to the, it's got a wideband on each side. So if you see big differences in corrections on each side, well, obviously you know you've got an airflow imbalance there. So yeah, and down the front here I've got, that's my flex fuel sensor. Is this the plug? Yeah, I think that's, yeah, that's the plug for the flex fuel. That's just going to sit there. I'm going to do away with the air conditioned fuel. I'm not sure that's necessary. I've never seen another car with it. Correct me if I'm wrong. And then down there I put the water temp and pressure on this crossover line here, simply because where the original one is, where you can actually see it there, there's just not room above it to run the big, the pressure and temperature sensors are a big sensor. And I've got those oil, what are they, oil lines that run right there, and there's just not enough room to move them. So I put it on that crossover. Whether that is a great idea or a really terrible idea, or going to find out. Fans are here. There's that's cable for the fan there. Air temperature there. That's a different sensor. I drilled this out. It's actually a bit bigger than standard, so I had to drill that out. What else? Coils. This is was it Aeroflow make these little looms for LS coils. So I just had to crimp and heat shrink them on there. Everything on this loom at the moment is just insulation taped together. The idea is I'll just get it running, and if there's no horrific problem, then I'll put the nylon loom cover on it and fleece tape and make it all bulletproof. Yeah, so what else? Right now I've got to mount the coils. I've got LS coils, but I'm going to 3D print some sort of a attachment. Some of you may have noticed the coils are originally in there, which is like the worst idea ever. It just cooks the coils and you get intermittent misfires, and so I remounted them here. But of course they're those Citron coils, they only have 2 inputs, so it fires 2 coils at once, so you can't use that for sequential. But with the LS coils, obviously you've got each individual coil, so you can use that for sequential. But they're a much larger, I'm going to have sort of 4 of them sitting there. That's my original mounts, so I've actually got to try and puzzle out a way to mount 4 there and in the similar sort of configuration to the original, because well, if I can, because I don't really want to get new leads if I don't have to. But I'm thinking maybe I can have them 2 deep like that, maybe, I don't know, I'll see. Yeah, so I think I'll probably be spending the day 3D printing and drawing and a bit of trial and error. Yeah, here's all my other coils, and I've got a bit of I don't know if it's an issue or not, but I've got a bit of an issue with the odd fire sequence, because if you look at Haltech, I'll see if I can find it. Yeah, like it's selected as an odd fire engine there. Trying to get so there's no big reflection there, and some of you are on the various Facebook pages and forums and whatnot might have seen me asking the question like, well, how do you set it up? And I actually asked Google AI, and they gave me a sequence of because you've got cylinder 1's at top dead center, and then you got to say, well, how many more degrees till the next cylinder fires, and the next cylinder, and the next cylinder, and the next cylinder. And it's actually what Google AI actually came up with is, when you sit down and do the double check it, do the maths or whatever, it actually makes sense. But the problem is the last number I think in that sequence was 800 and something degrees, and Haltech only accepts up to 720 degrees. Like, you can't type in a bigger number than that. So I'm a bit puzzled with all that. But then I did find there's a feature you can offset. Where is it? I'll see if I can find it again. Yeah, so if you go, yeah, if you go somewhere in the yeah, you can set up cylinder correction. So if you set up the cylinder correction, so by the way, I don't know this is actually the way to go, or this is a good idea, but I'm just showing you what I've seen. You've got like a correction based on manifold pressure for each cylinder. So that's basically from minus 100 kPa all the way up to 200. So you could just fill this whole cylinder, that whole table up with a minus or a positive degrees, and maybe achieve the same thing that way. Yeah, maybe I could do that. Maybe I could just do that for the last cylinder in the firing sequence. The one that wants me to type in 800 and something. Yeah, maybe I could just put in 720 and then add the difference. Maybe I can do that. I don't know. I think I'm a little way away from that point at the moment. Right now, yeah, today I'm going to try and do these coil mounts, and then the next step is I'm going to, well, put the front wheels back on, roll it out, pull these legs out, and I'm going to get into the car. And this is the bit I'm a little bit worried about, because that's now I have to interact with TVR electronics, but I don't think it'll be a big deal, because basically I've got to have a big power and a big earth going to the ECU, because if you look at these ECUs, they've got these big lugs on the ECU, and they come with these, well, somewhere in here there's, oh yeah, these things, these connectors that you have to crimp or do something, I'm not sure. Oh yeah, there's the other one. That's the other one. So it needs that, and it needs obviously a switched positive ignition on. Just should be no big deal to find. And air conditioning. I don't know if I'll need to run the air conditioning through the ECU. I think it might be a good idea if possible, but I'll have to look into that. I'm going to need some sort of alternator exciter wire. Well, that's still hanging here, so somewhere. So you can basically see here I've chopped the loom off. So when I go back to the ECU, I don't think that alternator exciter wire goes through the ECU. The starter doesn't go through the ECU. The aircon may or may, I think the aircon does, but basically I just have to isolate out, pull out those wires and either just run them back through to the engine bay, because it was just going to be too much of a headache to try and separate them from that loom, and a little bit of extra wire doesn't cost much. So yeah, that's it. The thermo fans will run through the ECU. I've just set them up so that it runs, they both come on at once, but this thing has actually got, I don't know if you can see it in there, but, oh yeah, see there, you got the dreaded flicker, but it's basically got like 4 25 amp outlets that are switchable in there, so you don't have to worry about a fuse or a relay. And I've also got a fuel pump. There'll be an output somewhere from the ECU that I'll have to tie up to trigger the fuel pump. Now that's already I already upgraded the wiring on that a couple of years back. Yeah, so it's just a matter of getting underneath there, which is why I've got to get it off the hoist, because there's no way I can't fit in there with the door only halfway open and this hoist in the way. So that's basically, I've tried to do everything that I possibly can that involves going under the car. Things like the crank sensor. The crank trigger sensor is actually a 60 -2, which is the same as LS motors. It must be a common sort of trigger pattern for anything and everything. So that's all connected, all that cable's insulated, the wide bands are both connected, everything's sort of positioned in place and out of the way. So yeah, I've just got to bite the bullet and do these coil mounts today, and then I should be put the front wheels back on, lower it down, pull out the factory ECU and see what sort of horrors await me there. Yeah, that's it. Nice quick one for today. Thank you. See you next time.